Okay, let's get started. If you downloaded this, you should receive this folder. If you double click the shortcut, the app should open. A few words about the app here. We have a file, new file, open file, save. There's a recent projects file area. There's an export. GXL is working. I haven't really looked at these. This one's working too. The StarNet, I don't know about it, and some of those may be removed from here. The project menu, it's got a settings tab. You can enter a project description that would go into the report or to the field app, which I'm still working on that. You can capture a screen capture here, and this is where you import CORS network points, data sheets, and you can import some CSV files as well. This is the generate survey plan where you would go to create a plan that would be used in the field to record the data, and this is a report for that. The network plan is for the pre-analysis of the network that you're entering. You've got a dialogue that shows you a little bit of the report, then there's a full report down here. Edit, this may go away. There's undo and redo for the app, but this session, edit selected session may go away. The view, we can hide and show the background map, the point IDs, the legend. There is, what we're seeing here is the OpenStreetMap from OpenStreet. We also have Esri background support. If this was going to end up being a Trimble app, we probably want to add the Trimble maps for this. That would replace all these three. But for now, we have this. Then there's a help file. There's help. Pretty long help file. Probably could be organized better. There's a tutorial, and then there's some standards and specifications on these topics of GNSS, observations, network designs. This one is for total station observation leveling. There's another leveling thing here. These are all available to the public, but they're in here because it's directly related to this application. So let's get started with the project. I started one yesterday. It's this TTC site in southern Colorado. What we're going to do is just add a few points in here just to show you that. We'll import some CORS station. We'll import some data sheets and use some of the points in there. These are all unknown points, as you can tell, and none of them have descriptions. If you wanted to add a description or review the points, you can right-click here or right-click here and say get the properties. The properties dialog, you can scroll through all the points in the project, add information. You can change the type if you want to. You can add a description. This would be useful if you're sending this to the field and they don't know exactly what the point is. We have some pre-analysis constraints down here that we'll get into later. So the first thing we'll do is we'll add a couple more points. And all you have to do to add a point is you right click where you want to add the point and add it. Here, that'll be good for that. You get the idea. Or you can say, you can right click anywhere and say, well, how far is it from, how far is it from here to here? And you get a dialog that computes the azimuth and the distance. This is in meters, but you can display in feet. Anytime you get a dialog like this, there's a couple of these. You can just hit escape or the X to enter. To close it. So we added an extra unknown point here. Now let's add some other control points. First, we want to add um, a CORS station. This will load Trimble's CSV list that has worldwide public and private stations that you can add to your project, and you can do it that way too. What happens is, let me click that. It says this is stored in the app data. The file is already there. I can update it or use the current one. Then it looks like nothing happens, but when you zoom out, nothing's added to your project. You can start to see the stations appear. These come into a temp format. The gold, as you can tell, is a private, probably a VRS station. You just right click on it and you can add it to the project. It gives you some information. This list, it's a spreadsheet list that contains a lot of information. Some of it for this purpose is useful, some not. This shows you the satellite system, the logging rate. Not all of them have this type of information. This is a CORS station. If we look at it, it has the name of it, it's public access, it has the receiver, login rate, and the satellite systems. You can individually dismiss the station. I don't want this one, and it will remove it from the list. But you can see if you zoom out some more, there's some more in here. Um, we have a, it's in, where is it? It's right here. If you don't find enough stations or the station you're looking for, you can increase this number. But turn number lock on. It looks at the data and puts up more stations that go out to that distance. If it's too many, too far, you can always reduce that number. I don't want to import these from here because I'm going to import it from the core site because I'll show you something about it. So from here, I can just say right click on a point and say clear all temp stations, or I can go up here to import and say clear all temp stations, and it removes all those stations. The next way to do that is going through the NCN CORS site. This downloads a KMZ file from NCN site, so this is going to be up to date. This has already been downloaded, so I'll just use it. Same thing, the points show up here. There's one right here on our site, one up here at Colorado Springs. I can right click on it. It has, like I mentioned, some attributes of the station. I can say add this point to the project, and you'll see it appear in this list over here. Now I can right click on it, or I can right click over here, and oops, I didn't hit it. There we go. I'm still looking at the list of stations. That's the for this. I'll go ahead and do two, and add this to this project. Now I will dismiss the remaining stations, which is, you see one P037 over here. Now if I right click on one of these and get the properties, what this does, it looks at the database, the NCN data sheet that it's going to go away. It looks at the data sheet and it pulls out some information that's going to go into the pre-adjustment, pre-analyzer. It pulls out the constraints from it. It uses the network accuracy estimates, pulls this information into here. This is in millimeters while these are centimeters. I could change that. And tells it how to use it in an adjustment. The options are default, fixed, weighted, or free. We'll look at this in just a minute, how this helps the user. It also says what the receiver is. It is the Trimble NetR9. It normally doesn't find the antenna because it's listed a little bit different. The layout or the text of it is different, but I can search down here. This is a TRM412. TRM, oh, one, here we go, TRM 412, 249, 41249, Zephyr Geodetic. So now I've identified this information will, and you can see, it's not here, that this has a calibrated antenna. So that information has also gone to the pre-analysis. It gives you more information here. We'll see some more of this in a minute. It tells it it's a core station. You can launch the data sheet right here from it. What it does is when you import a CORS or when you import a data sheet, it will write the data sheet into the file folder along. Here's the .GNSS file is this project. Then it writes the data sheets, and we'll see some more that's going to be coming in just a minute. We can go to import data sheets now. We can do a search for, this is just like TBC. We'll launch, there we go. This menu down here, this mode tells you what it's doing if you keep an eye on that. You can select data sheets out of here and hit get data sheets and save them, or I've already done that. So it's written a file already, so I can go straight into import data sheets. Let's see if I go into here, this is the TTC site. It says if you do 10 or less stations in a, you can have multiple stations within a data sheet. If you do 10 or less, they're automatically added to the project. If you do more than 10, it adds it to the staging area. It's I'm assuming that if you have 1 or 2 or 3 or up to 10 stations in that file that you intend on using all of them. That may or may not be true, but it adds them directly to the project. Now I'm going to use this. Okay, so we can see that this is the 3D control point. So we'll right click. See, there's none of this type of information here. You can, if you're not sure about it, which I'm not, what you can do is you can say open station web page. It opens that data sheet we just imported, and when you do that, you hit Control F and Control V, because when you right click and say launch it, it puts that station designation into here, so you can easily find it. What we're looking for, okay, so it's got some network accuracies. I want to really see what kind of mark it is, you know, information about this. And then if it's been recently found, searched, and we can see that in 2011 it was found, so that's probably a good mark to use that I can use. I'll close that, right click and say add station to project. And now maybe these are, the circles are 2D controls. I think there's some leveling in here. Maybe not. Let me see 2D. So that, so no 2D, I mean benchmark. So I will say clear all temp stations. Now I've got my unknown points, my new points that I'm going to add. I've got 2 core stations that I'm going to use for this survey, and I've got this one 3D control. Now if I go back to my properties, I can scroll through this and see what it's done. May Ranch is the point we just imported. It had network accuracies that were imported here. You can launch the data sheet, like I mentioned. If a lot of times you don't get this type of information, you don't get horizontal, vertical statistics on the point. It may be an older point that may just have it may be classically surveyed and adjusted, and that information would go in this description so you can tell what kind of control point you're using. You could provide a user define numbers for this if you wanted to, but when they're NGS coordinate, when it reads it from the file, these are not editable. So let's go back up to one of the unknown points, and let's just call it, this is a benchmark, and we'll hit OK. Shouldn't have done that. Oh, okay. We're going to constrain it, weight it. It's a benchmark. Oops. Oh, this is a different point. Anyway, we'll say it's weighted, and we'll say OK. Now it says there's something wrong. You're calling this a weighted point, but you're not providing any weighting to this point. It tells you what you need to do. You can, sometimes it gives you an auto fix, or you can say keep as is, or you can say cancel that and add your own weight to it. So I'm going to say it's not very good vertical point, and hit OK. Oh, and then I need to change it. It's got a vertical, so if I change this to benchmark, that should be OK. Okay, I'll undo that in just a minute. So that's one way to use the properties and how to identify the points you're going to be working with. You can just double click on this and change it. Double click on and change it here. Unknown. We still need to go in because I told it was weighted. Let's see what it did. So it still had that. So I'm going to say default and remove this number. The other one I didn't do. Okay. So now we're back to where we were. So let's start adding some sessions to this for our observations. So I'm going to tell it down here that we're using, for this particular data, we're going to have, let's say, 4 receivers. This is editable. You know, if you have more than 12, you can hit 50 and put a number in here, and that's what it's going to use. But for this, we'll use 4. We're going to use sequential session editing or session adding, and we'll get into that in a little bit. What this app does, though, so we have 4 receivers. So for baselines, you know, for independent vectors, you have n-1, so you can only have 3 independent baselines per session in this case, 4 receiver session. So we're going to start here. I'm just going to say add a session. It gives it a session and then a leg number, 4 receivers, and this is read only, saying that it's sequential, it's not radial, and we'll see that in a minute. So I'm not going to use my cores in this case for this setup. So I'll click here, adds P11, P10, P11, P9. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Remove last, and I go to P13. Now this is 3. It's telling me I've got 3 occupied points, 2 baselines, but I've got 4 receivers, so I can add one more click. There we go. So now it's telling me I've got 4 occupied points, baselines. If I'm losing count and I'm not paying attention, I might click for the 5th point, and it says you reach your limit. You can remove it, added a new session for you. You can remove it or continue and say I want to continue, because I'm continuing to add these sessions. So I'll click one here. Now you see this increase, so this means 14 has been occupied twice. I'll go out to May Ranch, then to here, here, and here. Oops, lost count. So I'll continue to add sessions. It adds, each one of them has their own color. I go P3, occupied twice, here, and here. Now I can close this loop. Is that all? Okay, I've got this P9 point here, and I've only got 3 vectors, so I'm going to go from P10 to P9. And I could keep going. I won't continue to do this, but I could keep going to add more sessions until I feel this is a good network. What this does in real time, it analyzes the geometry of the network and it tells me what my redundancy is, what the connections look like. If you can see a very weak strength of figure, add redundant baselines. If I go up here to, let's see if it's going to do it, show suggested ties. No, that's going to be later. But it gives me an idea of my network geometry. My network geometry. Now we added the cores sites, but we haven't used them yet. Now we have 3 vectors. So if I have one core station added to a vector, it's only going to add one vector, independent vector to this blue session, which is down here. So what I'm going to do is right click and say add a radial. This workflow is intended for this purpose. It changed the receiver counts to 2, and now what you would do is pick on the core station. You could do this in reverse too, and say I want to go for this session, I want to use this vector from this core station. Now remember, we had 2 core stations that we added. So I'm going to right click and add a new radial. It's AMC4, and now I'm looking for the blue one. I'm going to go to this point here. I could, it's your choice. You can do whatever you want to do. But now it says we have 6 occupied stations. This is counting the cores, and it's got 5 baselines, which equals the n-1 for independent sessions. Now, and maybe I shouldn't allow it, but you can. I could click here and click on a point that is not in the session, and that would show that you have. It would increase this to 7 and 6 or 5, but that would mean you have more receivers out for that session than what you've identified. We said we only had 4, but here you say we added PUB6, and AMC4, but these 2, P10 and P14, were already used before. So there we go. That counts. That count is proper. So now let's see. We have for this session. Now it can get kind of busy. This is a small project. It can get kind of busy. So what I can do is I can hide this session and only show this session. So for this one, I want to go add a radial leg. I want to go PUB6 to this point. I'll add another one, and AMC4 to maybe this point. Now my mouse button is broken, the wheel, but if you double click on the wheel button, it zoom extends, or you can just zoom out, or you can go here and say zoom extends. I need to get a new mouse. So, okay, so that takes care of this one. So I will turn this one off and turn this one on and add a new radio baseline for it. Now I kind of forget which ones I went to with the cores. I'm going to say PUB6. I guess that's Pueblo. And then turn these others on, so I don't want to duplicate the same one. So I'll go for this one, P9 from here, and then for I'll add another one from AMC. And now I'm looking for the green vectors, or the green ones. I'll go to this point. Oh no, I did that one from here. I will go to this point. Now again, this is making these is just up to the user how they want to do it. This may or may not be a good plan, but it's up to the user to find this out. Now normally, what they would have to do is get a map sheet, maybe Google Earth, and they would click and add points here, and then try to add sessions and keep all of this stuff in their mind of how they're doing it. Well, this kind of does the same thing, but it keeps track of what you're doing in this case. It doesn't allow you to do, I'm missing 2 points. It doesn't allow you to do dependent vectors. As a matter of fact, watch this. If I add a session, oh, it's 2. I accidentally had that. That's kind of a pain in the butt. But I can change this to 4 here, and now I can add 4 receivers. If I do P6, P8 to P4, and now say I want to close it, it'll say this is you can't have a closed loop in an independent vectors, so it doesn't allow that. You can go back to here if you would like, which would be valid. Okay, so let's save this project to keep track of if it's saved or not. Let's save it. Just okay, and override it, yes. And now what we want to do, say this is our final plan. We want to plan for the field activity that's going to happen with this. We'll go to generate survey field plan. It comes up with the date. This information, this 2-hour duration, comes from the project settings here. It says 2 hours is here. Let's say we want to go, well, let's not change that just yet. So this is Wednesday, and we do what was our work? We ended at 4 o'clock, so we can't observe this next session, so it goes into the next day. I can also say we don't work on Thursdays, so it will see that, skip that day and go to the next one. We can turn this back on, goes back, and we can change this and say, well, we really want to finish this today, so let's go to 6 o'clock. And now it can add that session in here. Let's keep that for like it is for right now. But we want to increase the minimum time we're going to occupy each session for. We'll say it's going to be 4 hours. That automatically updates, changes the date as it sees fit. And we want to go, because the length of the baselines are different, we can say let's add 5 minutes per kilometer of the baseline, and it's going to add some time in here for that. Now this station setup, it can be 2 things. Right now it is the time, let's say close this. 8 o'clock plus 4 hours 40 minutes to 12:41 plus 30 minutes goes to 13:11 is the next time. So this is the setup and tear down and moving from one site to the next. So we can change this if we know that one of these stations it's going to take a lot longer to move. Then we can modify individually and say, oh, this one's going to be 45 minutes, and then we'll hold that time. But let's not do that. So what we can do, okay, so that's that. So end time plus the setup time is equal to start time of the next one. Or what this can do, now this is a small site, so it's not going to, you won't see much difference here. What you can do is say, I want to optimize my drive. Normally what these surveyors would do is team 1 would be on point 10, then it'd go to 14, next session 3, then 6. Team 2 would be on 11, May Ranch, P12, P8. Then team 3, so forth and so on, 13 to 6. And this is not regarding, well, how long of time does it take for this person to go from P11 to May Ranch? It may, they may be right next door and it takes no time, but then this guy may have to drive for 45 minutes to get to this site. So what this optimized drive time does, it looks at each site in one session, then it calculates a drive distance between it and all the others in the next session. It does that for each of the points, and it finds a mean time of travel for everyone. So you're not having someone drive, like I said, 5 minutes and everyone else has to drive 45. It tries to find an average time for everyone to move together. Now, you will see in this case, like as you saw it when we built the sessions, P14 is in this session and it's in this one. Normally in this case, they would have to manually say, well, P14 is now team 1, and it comes from over here to here, so they're going to stay there. The app does do that. It stays. It keeps the if a station is set on in consecutive station, it will keep this team here on this station and move everybody else. So let's go to optimize drive times. It's going to do that calculation, and it tells you how many minutes you're saving. Okay, in this case, and we'll have to change this. It said the drive time between stations, and this is kind of weird because there's not much access out here. It had to go a long ways to find this, to find the times. You can say it's saving you 11 minutes overall per setup. But in this case, it said the drive times were too great, and after almost 5 hours of occupation, you couldn't do another session on the same day after that drive time. So it split them up into 4 days. Well, let's say we're only going to do 2 hour sessions, and that'll be that. We won't do any time limit. And now this thing, I said it was two things. This is the second part of this, that the station setup. Now, since we're doing a drive time calculation, we want to know how long does it take the surveyor to, if they're set up already, how long does it take them to tear it down, put it in the vehicle, then they use this drive time, and how long does it take them to set up again? So I can do it in 10 minutes or less because it's pretty quick. But let's say 15 minutes in this case. Now it changed these to 15. Still our drive time is like this. We need to, once this gets done, these dates are pinned and they don't get reset until you go and say reset dates. This is still 15. Now okay, so we've gone to 2 hours. We can fit all 4 of those in one day, but now let's add the drive time in here and see what happens. Okay, so again, it said the same thing, 11 minutes. But you can see now that we're occupying the times less, that we can fit 3 sessions on one day. 28 minutes to drive here, and they get pretty wild. That's probably not too true, but this is a map service that looks at what's available to it. So this may not be 100% right. But let's say we're not going to start on today. We're going to start this next Wednesday. And, okay, so I changed the date. It went back. So let me reset the dates. Remove the drive time. It's going to be the same thing. Do the drive times again. 3, and then put this on the other day. And say, let's say this is good. Now we can, because the core stations aren't occupied, we can just leave them off this list. Or we can say, if we really needed the cores, you know, we want our time, and this isn't going to make a difference in this case, but we want our time to include the vector length of the core stations. You can see here, these are 8 kilometers, 9, 7, and 7 again. That is the longest leg of these sessions that's going to compute, go into computing duration. Right now it's not doing it because we told it to say 0. But when we add the cores, you can see these lengths are going to increase greatly. And now it still hasn't changed anything because we've told it we don't want to add extra time, a scalar for the distance, the length of the vector. But now let's say we just add 2 minutes. So we have 2 hours up here, 2 minutes per kilometer. So you can see these times increase pretty drastically. So sometimes the accuracy requirements of this project doesn't require these longer occupations. So you can click and uncheck and uncheck that. And now you can see, now that the sessions are longer, we need to, and this is no longer right, because if we're going day 1 to day 2, we're not driving to the next session. So this needs to be reset. We'll say remove optimization, reset the dates, reset the dates. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because this ends at 1500 and we don't have time for another session in that day. And again, it resets the date. So let's go to 27th and do optimize drive time again. Now you will see it'll do 28, do that here, and then figure that you can't do 3 sessions, so it moves this. You don't need one at the end of the day when you pick up. So let's say that this is good. This is the plan we want to go with. 15 minutes is good. So if you add 15 minutes and 30 minutes here, you can see the end time and then the start time is using both of these values to compute this time between the sessions and then the duration of the sessions. Now what we want to do is we can export this information to a spreadsheet. And now this information is what's going to be either print out, or you could put this in a Google Drive or whatever, where each team member could download it, or could fill in this information right online for each of their points. The HI, the receiver types, antenna types, serial numbers of both. It gives them where they're supposed to be. This is surveyor 1. This is where they're going, and this is the times they're going to be there and set up on. This is the plan versus the actual that you have down here. And this is for each one of the teams. This is the overall plan. This is the independent vectors. This is what should be sent to TBC, so they know these are the independent vectors I wanted for this session. I don't want to count all of my dependent sessions. So they would use this information to disable everything but these. Then station details about the points. One other thing I didn't show, let's go back to settings and go to here and say manage crews. Well, we know who's going to be doing the survey. So let's go ahead and put their names in here. And then we know that Richard has an R12i. We know that Scott has a 750, and he's going to be using a Zephyr Geodetic 3. Nick has a R980, and Grafton, he's got a R580. Now, one thing you will see, well, that'll be later, but there's a couple things missing this all comes from the antenna INI information. This information pulls from my library that I've selected. This information will also go into the pre-analysis adjustment. So let's save this and look back over here at GNSS. This is my library. This is the equipment that my company has. So this is for receivers. These are the receivers I have. If I say, oh, we just bought a new something, we can go in here to this is a Trimble INI receiver INI file. So it reads it, loads up everything it's got in here, and we can go in and add a new it doesn't count. It doesn't say I've got 2 of these, so you can only use 2 of them, but it says we got a new 780-2 model, and I'm going to save that to my library. Then I can go in here and see that 780-2. And the problem with this is that the 780s is not shown, I don't believe, as a antenna also. So we should be able to see it, like you will see the R10, 12, 4s, 580 is part of an antenna, but the 780 for whatever reason is not in here. So that's a defect with the INI file, the antenna INI, that you could modify yourself if you wanted to, but May not be a good idea. Now this, what's sent to the analysis is this information here that it has a published calibration. So it makes this antenna more precise than one without. I don't know of one that doesn't have one, but I'm sure there's some in here. But this is the information that comes from Geo++ type stuff. So anyway, so now when we go to, since we've named our teams in this report, in the spreadsheet, now we have Richard, Scott, Nick, and Grafton. And then down here, they've got their own tab of where they would store their information. Also, I've got a fill app I'm working on that's mostly done, but I haven't looked at it in a while, so I've got some new information to use with this. The other thing I wanted to show you in here on this workflow is that these routes, you can see it gets kind of busy in here, so I'm going to hide the routes, and I'm only going to look at legs 1 and 2, sessions 1 and 2. I'm going to uncheck everything else. Let me look at 1 and 2, and I want to look at the route between 1 and 2, so this is it. So this will have everyone's movement. You can see they're kind of crazy here when it's out in the middle of nowhere. So this may or may not be too useful, but it is useful for this demonstration. So I'm going to click this, select this route. What it's going to tell me, what session it is, what team it is. They're going from session A to B, the from and to, how far the travel time is, the distance for each of those, the inverse. And then if it's a county road or straight road or asphalt road, it gives a factor in here. But in this case, their starting access to this point is 314 meters. So the closest they can get to this point is 314 meters. So you may have to add time for this session for them to pull out the gear and pack it 300 meters out here. So I don't know how long it takes, 5 minutes maybe. But you can see the other side is nearly 500 meters, which is, and here they are. Well, it's quite the route. Oh, here it is, to P3. Yeah. So here it's P3. Now you don't really have to open this. What you can do is say, well, how far is it from here to here? 472 meters. Or you can just, click the route. Now this is another route, but same thing. So this one's, 2,500 meters. That's quite the hike. So you might want to research this and add some information. Well, I know there's other roads out here. It's only going to take 5 minutes. So you may not use this for this case because there's just no roads out here. But so not always practical to use that optimizing tool, but if you're in a city area and you're doing this types of survey and there's pretty good access to the points, that would be a good thing to organize your teams and where they're going based on the access and based on time between the sessions to more equal it out. Now at the same time, we won't do it for this. We can run a pre-analysis. Let me turn off all these. These, and we're going to do this in the next session, but you can run this, and it's going to tell you some information about this. These gray lines are connected, are suggested connections to improve your network geometry. These points that are circled out here are points that would connect these with good strength of figure values that would improve the network geometry for this. So that's it for this session. I'll record another one for the following parts of this. Thank you very much for your time.